Hello and welcome. Today we're cooking and preserving some of the things from my garden. Starting with zucchini. We all know and love the way zucchini so generously provides all season. It's not hard to be creative with zucchini being so mild in flavor. It's my favorite vegetable because you can cook with it in so many different ways, even in baking. This day I am making zucchini fritters along with beans, couscous, homegrown garlic, spices, and combining everything with eggs and flour. I serve this in a pita bread with vegetables, sour cream, and Romesco sauce. My slicing tomatoes were not ripe when filming this, but I could at least use my own lettuce. Romesco sauce is basically a mix of pickled grilled peppers, a splash of vinegar, and almonds. I also added parsley to it from the garden as well. I will leave the recipe down below. This is a recipe you can really get creative with and adjust it to your taste. You could swap out the spices or add feta cheese in the mixture. That is something I was going to, but I forgot. Or you could use whatever vegetables you want. It would also be very good with tzatziki sauce. Fritters are overall a very versatile recipe. In my last video you saw us picking a bunch of basil, and I planted twice as much basil as last year so I could freeze a batch of pesto for the winter. I did also end up picking just as much basil one more time just to keep chopped in the freezer. We have also been eating it fresh all summer long. This day I also decided to pick thyme for drying, and I will later in this video pick the majority of our herbs in the garden for preserving. As for the pesto, I did follow a recipe since I would make so much of it. Usually if just making it for dinner I wouldn't measure it, but I wanted to be safe this time, also because it was basically all the basil that we had at the time. I didn't want to ruin it. For the pesto I used just a bunch of basil. I don't know how much it was in grams, but my hope is that you can see it in the video. I wanted a really strong basil flavor. The other key ingredients for pesto is Parmesan cheese, pine nuts, olive oil, garlic, salt and pepper. The recipe stated 1 deciliter of Parmesan cheese, half deciliter of pine nuts, 1.5 deciliter of olive oil, a teaspoon of salt, a few pinches of black pepper, and 2 cloves of garlic. I used homegrown garlic, which are a bit milder, but you can adjust the garlic to your taste. When mixing, it's important to do it fast or in pulses. You don't want the basil to turn dark from heat or bruising. I left my pesto on the chunkier side because that's how I like it, but also to maintain the fresh taste and vibrant green color. I ended up getting a jar to keep in the fridge that we already been using from, and it is indeed very good. I also had enough for 2 smaller containers for the freezer and 1 small jar to give away. The 2024 harvest of garlic is ready to be processed. It has been curing for about 1 to 2 weeks. I brushed them clean, cut off the stem, and then I separated the ones with damage to use first. I am super excited to grow even more garlic for next year. This is the 2nd year I grow my own cilantro. Although I try different seeds, we just don't end up liking the taste. It's probably the only thing I actually prefer store-bought. But I do grow them anyway for coriander seeds that I use in my fall and winter cooking. I sieve them through a couple of times and then I put them into a clean spice jar. The time has come to harvest herbs. We just don't eat all of it fresh in time before they want to flower. I do let some of it flower for seed saving, but first I make sure to get a good harvest a couple of times. I am thinking of purchasing a dryer. I cannot afford a freeze dryer, but a regular dryer will do until then. I usually air dry the herbs, which works fine, but I don't like having them spread out all over my kitchen counters. The same way you don't want to bruise your pesto goes with chopping your basil. I do end up sharpening the knife, but I should have done that first. I also find it easier rolling them up in a bowl before cutting for less friction. Jävlar vad tunga. This was a couple of evenings before leaving for Greece. We needed to do a little harvest before and eat it all fresh while we could. I didn't do much to prepare the garden before we left since my mom would be staying here, but I did want to enjoy some garden fresh produce that my garden had provided me. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it wasn't all over the place, but this is what my summers look like. Cooking, preserving, and using my garden harvests. Take care. Bye bye.